Students, how are you doing? Welcome to Awesome Naya. I hope you all are great. Came across this video and I am going to let us talk about this because I feel like most times when they say all this, they are trying to gaslight black people, because I cannot come out and tell you not to talk about your experience, what you are going through. I must actually not be a good person to tell you that. And then they will come out to tell you that, you are not progressing because you are talking about what happened before. Black people are not asking you for handouts. There are so many black billionaires doing amazingly great. One thing I know for sure is that if you ever forget about your history, you are bound to repeat that same history that you forget. At some point, slavery was one of their biggest flex. How come all of a sudden they do not want to talk about it anymore? Because they are ashamed of what they did. Each time black people try to take a step forward, you look for a way to drag them back. Why? Because you do not want to dismantle that system that has been oppressing them right from the onset. How can a system be set up for a particular people? And when people tell me that the system has never been broken, it is actually functioning the way it was built. And then I do not get to see why people tell Jewish, tell the Asians not to talk about what happened, what they went through, their experience and all that. But they will come and gaslight black people and tell them to stop talking about it. Who are you? The Holocaust, you never tell them that. It's only black people that you all got power to gaslight. Let's get into this video.
Talking about racism does not perpetuate racism. Not talking about racism perpetuates racism. Racism is the default. It is there. It is always insidiously crawling around. And if you don't talk about it, if you don't call it out, if you don't address it, it will continue to keep insidiously crawling around. The example I think about is like if you are a doctor and you have a patient, how can you treat that patient if you don't know what the diagnosis is? It's like saying, like, I'm gonna just treat this patient, although I don't know what's wrong with the patient. If you're a mechanic and a car comes in and it's broke down, do you say, oh, I'm gonna just fix this car without figuring out what's wrong with it? Is it the transmission? Is it the engine? Do you need a new Cadillac converter, or do you just need some gas? Like, you see that a population of people, of black people specifically in America, but also around the globe, is not doing well. And so, and we know that is because of racism, systemic racism, left and right, up and down. But instead of saying, oh, racism is the problem, let's root out the racism, let's figure out where the systemic oppression is happening when it comes to black people and darker skinned people, you're going to say, oh no, if we just ignore it, it'll go away. It's been 400 years at least 400 years of systemic racism in America alone and across the globe. It was like, what, 1400s was the transatlantic slave trade? So what is it, so it's like 1,000 years of systemic racism, slowly but surely upping and increasing and to the point where it was awful, and well, it was always awful. But anyways, it's been here for 1,000 years, and you think just not talking about it is going to make it go away? You're silly. You're naive. You're asinine if you want to go that route. It's just like, not talking about racism is the reason why we are here today. So every time a black person brings up a black problem and they're just like, oh no, that's politics, that's political, I don't want to talk about that. Like, every time you feel uncomfortable about talking about racism and you feel like, I don't want to talk about it, that is the reason why there's still racism, is because white people specifically all across America and across the globe are able to ignore the problem and pretend it doesn't exist, while governments of European and Western countries and politicians and the powerful are able to continue to perpetuate racism because it is profitable to arrest black people. Private prisons, they get money. To the police stations, they get money. The government, every time they have an issue and they can just blame black people somehow, some way, they expout the accountability away from themselves. Instead of having to fix whatever their problem is, they can just appease the white populace, which is the majority in the power, and say like, oh no, it was black people, don't worry about it. Like, oh, you guys are economically unstable, it's the immigrants, don't worry about it. Like, every time you allow racism to not go called out, you allow people in power to continue to use racism as a way to get away with their crummy, crappy stuff. Like, that's the whole reason racism exists, is for money. That's all it really, like, it was to enslave people, was to be able to get labor for free, right? So they didn't have to pay for labor, but they could keep all the profits. Same thing, slavery never went away. Obviously, people who are in prison in the United States, we have the largest prison population in the entire world, not because we have the actual most criminals, but because we have a system that doesn't actually help people who are incarcerated get better, right? We have a terrible recidivism rate, and that's unintentional because they want people in jail. And they want those people to be people of color so that the large white populace can feel comfortable with the people in jail and being enslaved, because it's not them in general, it's not the white people. So it's just like, okay, well, they probably deserved it, like, because the blackness and the criminality and the lack of humanity, they've connected it, they've coupled it in people's minds. And so whenever you do something awful or harmful to a person of color or a black person, the entire white populace is just like, just another person of color going to jail, oh well, like. And because you don't call out, like, that is racism, these systems are racist, the justice system is racist, like the favoritism, the bias, the media, all of that is racist. If you don't call it out, it'll just keep happening in the white populace, which is the majority, and the people in power, it'll just slide, it'll just ride, because it's normal at this point. It is so normal. Racism is so normal and lies in this country. If you don't call it out, it is just going to keep happening. Like, the system right now is greased with racism, and if you don't say something or do anything about it, it will continue to, that train will just keep going. So I don't know, someone just commented on one of my posts, like, oh, if you just don't make this about race, stop talking about racism. It's just like, that's what we've been doing. Like, if you keep not talking about it, it's just going to keep happening. And if that's what you want, get off my page.
That's an entire course that is taught at the postgraduate level. I took racism, and the law in my master's degree. But what I can do for you is recommend some books for you to expand your mind. Just Mercy. Also a movie with Michael B. Jordan, but the book is always better. But Michael B. Jordan is very good looking, so if you want to watch the movie, you will not be disappointed. To Kill a Mockingbird, again, also a movie, but the book is always better. Locking Up Our Own, Crime, Punishment in Black America. And The Color of Law. This book talks about how Black people and the government, a forgotten history of how our government segregated America. This picture, Chicago, 1970. When the federal policy denied mortgages to African Americans, they had to buy houses on the installment plan, which led to numerous evictions. Do you know what the installment plan is? The installment plan is where it's kind of like the rent to own scam that people with bad credit or whatever get into to buy a home. And if you miss a single payment, it doesn't matter if you've been paying on that house for 30 fucking years. If you missed a single payment, they took your home from you. That's how that worked. Like, you could never actually pay off the home though. This book goes into detail about how the US government put in place systems and policies to intentionally and systematically disenfranchise and segregate Black people out of white neighborhoods. Read this book first and then go on to the others. And then you'll have at least a starting point to understand this question.
If colonizers throughout history all had a specific appearance, I think that we need to figure out why that was. Why the people who have always undeniably done the most harm in this world look a certain way. What can explain the difference between them and the people that always just want peace, who all they've ever wanted is peace? Now, I'm not saying that there's people out there that are perfect, that haven't done harm to others. I'm not saying that. But there is a difference between harming others like a normal human being and stripping people of their humanity, tearing apart families, forced pregnancies, forced actions that require consent where consent wasn't allowed to be given, an entire system where certain people are seen as less, and that system is passed down generation to generation, harming people for centuries upon centuries. There is always a specific look to the people that cause this harm, that keep this harm alive, that are not concerned with ending this oppression. Just throughout history, they've always looked the same. They are continuing to look the same with no end in sight. I mean, if you see an end, I don't. So if you see it, you're in denial. But anyways, what explains this? Because if we can't get to the bottom of it, we can't figure out a solution. If we can't figure out what makes this very specific type of peoples like this, then is the solution to never find a solution.
Right now, Trump's second term is locking racism, sexism, and hate into policies that will outlive every one of us. If this were just the bloviations of one blowhard, which is all he is, it might make us mad. It might even hurt our feelings for a minute, but it would fade. But instead, he has surrounded himself with people who think just like him. But frankly, I believe external forces selected him because he was malleable, because his ego is so huge that he can be led around like a puppet on strings just by flattering him. But however it happened, together they are engineering systems that will be almost impossible to dismantle. His first term stacked new damage on top of old racist structures this country never tore down. Housing discrimination, voter suppression, unequal justice. Biden spent his entire presidency trying to undo that mess, and he couldn't. Many would say that he wasn't up to the task. I would throw in that we should not be electing 80-year-old people into the presidency. That's a young man's job. Well, now Trump has returned with a battle axe. He's slashing away at DEI, women's rights, civil rights. All these protections are going by the wayside. These aren't just fleeting headlines. These are systems being built to last, and they're designed to harm for generations. They don't care about the morality of it. They care whether it builds them power and money. That's all they care about. This is why we cannot think of racism as just individual people's prejudices. When it becomes law and policy, it becomes a machine. White folks especially need to see this clearly. Ignoring it lets the gears grind on. Racism is systemic. It always has been, and it's being rebuilt stronger right now. I'm not an expert. I'm just an avid learner. Comments help me learn, and likes, shares, saves, and reposts keep the algorithm happy. My username works as an address if I disappear from here, and you can also check the link in my bio to support my work. Get curious.
White people, have you ever heard of street justice? Do you know what that is? Okay, so street justice is when a community who doesn't feel like they can trust the authorities or the government to execute justice properly, because they usually don't for communities of color. You should know that by now. And if you don't, go talk to someone about it, because you're probably internally racist. Anyways, and so the community, takes justice into their own hands. And, that might mean beating up the perpetrator, or, something giving some sort of justice or consequence to an awful person who got away with evil because the government justice system said that they can get away with evil. Like if it's like a community rug dealer or something like that. They might have a lot of money, so they might have a good lawyer, so they may have hurt a child or, did something terrible in the neighborhood, but they got away with it because there's no justice. If you got money, you can get away with it. If there's no money, you can't get away with it. So I asked you that because I want you to consider you know, taking things into your own hands with this current authority, this current government. I know you guys don't like going against authority, but hey, you got to do what you got to do. I know you don't maybe not want to call it street justice. You might want to call it avenue justice or like a boulevard justice. I know y'all like to your gentrification, but think about it. Think about taking matters into your own hands and getting things done, because things are weird in your government right now, and it's making everything hard for everyone, and we can't do it, people of color, because then they'll just murk us all off and say, oh, it was their fault because they were criminals or something like that. That's what they love to do to all kinds of black people or people of color. If black people or people of color stand up, we are the problem. And they will spin the story and the narrative to make us seem like we were the issue. But if you do it, hey, it might go over much better. So think about getting yourself some avenue justice, and let me know how it goes.
This is all I got from this video, and there we gaslight you and tell you to stop talking about it, that when you stop talking about it, to go away. It's gaslighting, because not talking about it has never made it gone away. The reality is, I love the way that woman recommended a lot of books for the person that was asking how does systemic oppression or what affects Black people. You are asking, go read a book. And the one that actually got me was where she said, do you know that there was a time when Black people, like, when you are paying, like, for maybe, let's say, for mortgage and all that, and you fail to pay for the house, for just like omitted to pay, it's just like the way you've been paying for house, and just maybe for 1 month you miss the payment. That is the end. All these things are the things Black people went through. And when Black people want to talk about their experiences and all that, somebody from nowhere will come out and say rubbish. Because you've never lived that experience, because you've never lived that life, because it doesn't concern you. How will it concern you when you never lived it? And you want people to stop talking about their experience. And it's only Black people that they tell never to talk about their history, that your history was violent. The same history that at some point it was the biggest flex for you people, all of a sudden became violent, that you don't want to talk it again. You don't want to speak about it again. What happened? What went wrong? Because I need to know why all of a sudden, because all of a sudden it became too heavy for you to talk about. I have never ever seen them tell the people that experienced Holocaust not to talk about what happened to them. The Jews, that they never tell them anything. The Japan, the Asian, they never tell them anything. It's only Black people that they tell, let go of it, forget about it. Because after all, slavery was beneficial for slaves. And all of a sudden, I saw a video of a man picking cotton, a white man. He was picking the cotton, and he said it was not hard to pick. So there is no need to pay Black people reparations. You picked one cotton, and that was it. You said it was not hard to pick. Have you ever tried picking it for the whole day and only have 20 or 5 minutes of break? Have you ever tried that? Let's see how you are going to survive under that sun. Have you ever tried that? Actually, there is no need to, one thing I do not like is trying to make them probably tell them to go try it. There is no need trying actually, because you definitely know you cannot survive it. That is how bad it is. And still, this systemic oppression to today is still going on. That's why when people say slavery was, shut the hell up. Slavery ain't over. It's evolved. It's in prison. It's almost, it never went away. The oppression is still there. Black people have been working so hard to dismantle the system that has been put in place to oppress them. When they take one step forward, they look for a way to take them backward. I have never ever seen people that do not, the fact that they want other people to prosper so that these particular people will not prosper, so that they can keep them at the same place. But the universe is bigger than you. Because, sometimes when I sit down and think about some certain things, I might not be able to put it, but I am like, how come the people that built this country, that you should be working so hard to make their life easier, how come nothing has ever been made easier for them? I remember how when you come to Black community, you see all sort of stores in Black community. They do not have all that in their own. When Black people ask for loan to better their life, they give Asians, go to Black community, open stores. But people that look like me do not get that equal opportunity. And then the Asians will come and tell us the mother minority, just get away. Get away. Sometimes I don't like talking about this thing because it comes with heavy heart and all that. And some people will tell you when you keep, nobody is dwelling on what happened. They tell you that you won't progress if you don't stop talking about it. There are so many Black billionaires. History is something nobody should ever forget, because if you ever forget it, it will repeat on you straight up. Are they waiting for you to give them hand? Black people are not waiting for you to give them handouts. Bye for now.